Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're looking at a deeply inspiring narrative that goes way beyond just agriculture. It's an absolutely powerful analysis of struggle, resilience, and ultimate victory. We're breaking down the journey of a man named Ramcharan. He was a small village farmer who faced literally insurmountable odds, and we'll see exactly how he transformed not just his barren land, but his entire destiny.
Now, I want you to really think about this for a second. When the systems you rely on completely break down, what's your next move? Do you surrender or do you pivot? While the story we're unpacking today happens out in rural farming fields, this is a totally universal human experience. Whether you're running a business, managing a career, or like our subject Ramcharan, literally trying to grow food from the earth just to survive, unexpected massive obstacles are going to happen. How you respond to them, well, that defines everything.
So, let's get into Section 1, Ramcharan's difficult struggle and the harsh reality of the fields.
To really grasp the scale of Ramcharan's eventual success, we first have to understand the sheer depth of his struggle. His early life was, quite frankly, incredibly grueling. Just imagine working tirelessly under a scorching sun day in and day out, wearing torn clothes with the constant heavy anxiety of survival literally etched into your face. Every single year, he poured his blood, sweat, and tears into traditional farming, but he was completely at the mercy of unpredictable weather. And then came the breaking point. A catastrophic drought hit his village. The advice he got from everyone around him was just bleak. They told him, Ramcharan, leave farming, go to the city for manual labor. You're never going to get anything from this soil. And honestly, there was this thick blanket of hopelessness over the whole village. Other farmers were actually giving up, packing their bags, and fleeing their ancestral homes. And you couldn't really blame them, right? For Ramcharan, things were so dire that his family was staring down the very real threat of starvation.
But right when the pressure was at its absolute peak, Ramcharan didn't pack his bags, he didn't run. Instead, he picked up a handful of that dry, cracked earth and anchored himself with this incredibly powerful thought. He said, "This soil is my mother, and a mother never lets her child go to sleep hungry." He held on to this unwavering, almost stubborn belief that even though today was unimaginably bad, tomorrow could change. He fundamentally refused to accept that the land had betrayed him. Actually, scratch that. It's more like he realized he just needed a completely new way to understand it.
Which brings us to Section 2, towards modern farming and adapting to the drought.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate pivot in our hero's journey. Instead of admitting defeat and running off to the city to do manual labor, Ramcharan decided to adapt. Now, he had zero money to his name, so he turned to whatever resources he could possibly find, and in his case, that was a simple radio. He started tuning into agricultural programs, turning that little radio into his own personal classroom. He was figuring out how he could apply modern, adaptive strategies to his own ruined land. And his strategic shift was just brilliant. He moved entirely away from the traditional method, relying heavily on rainfall and growing thirsty crops like paddy, which was basically a massive gamble against the weather. Instead, he went all in on a modern approach. He started growing organic vegetables and fruits that needed significantly less water. Sure, he didn't have the capital to buy expensive equipment or synthetic fertilizers, but he made up for that lack of money with a fiery, unyielding passion to succeed. He literally changed the rules of the game on his own farm.
Moving right along to Section 3, people's ridicule and hard work, and the real price of innovation.
Now, as we all know, innovation never comes without friction. Whenever you break away from the status quo, especially in a tight-knit, super-traditional community, you're going to face resistance. Ramcharan's new mindset clashed directly with the conservative attitudes of his peers. While he was out there trying to save his farm through adaptation, his neighbors just couldn't wrap their heads around why he was abandoning the exact methods their ancestors had used for generations. And the ridicule he faced? It was intense. People literally pointed at him in the fields and laughed, saying he has gone mad growing weeds instead of crops. Because organic farming and low-water veggies looked so wildly different from the traditional paddy fields everyone was used to, they just assumed he had lost his mind. I mean, just imagine the psychological toll of that. You're already fighting starvation, you're battling a severe drought, and now your entire community is actively mocking your only survival plan? No way that's easy.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because his eventual triumph was absolutely not a stroke of luck. It was a relentless, exhausting strategy. His routine was just grueling. He'd wake up at 4 a.m. every single day, no days off. In the mornings, he'd painstakingly test the soil. Then, throughout the rest of the day, completely ignoring the scorching sun and the mocking laughs from his neighbors, he worked to naturally create his own organic compost, mostly because he just couldn't afford to buy chemical fertilizers. He tuned out the noise, put his head down, and focused entirely on the process.
This brings us to our final act, Section 4, Success and Respect, as the barren land finally blooms.
And then, guys, the miracle happened. The massive payoff for all that silent, grueling work. While the rest of the village was still this dry, desolate, drought-stricken landscape, Ramcharan's small field completely transformed. It became an absolute oasis. It burst to life with lush green plants, yielding these rich, juicy, organic fruits and vegetables. By working with the environment instead of fighting against it, he literally coaxed life out of the exact same dirt that everyone else had abandoned as dead. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that because Ramcharan used organic compost and meticulous modern techniques, an incredible economic flip occurred. The quality of his produce was absolutely unparalleled. It was so exceptional that he didn't even have to travel to the city to sell his harvest. The market literally traveled to him. Wealthy city merchants and big traders started driving all the way out to his small, rural farm just to secure his high-quality produce. He completely flipped the supply chain in his favor.
The ultimate irony here, and the real reward of his journey, is just staggering. Think about the past for a second. He was drowning in debt, struggling just to scrape together 2 meals a day, and ridiculed as the village madman. Now look at the present. He became the biggest, most successful, and wealthiest farmer in the entire region. And you know what the best part is? Those very same people who packed their bags, the ones who laughed in his face and called his organic crops weeds, they eventually returned to the village, and they came directly to Ramcharan to be his students. They were quite literally begging to learn the exact modern farming techniques they had once mocked him for.
Which leads us to Section 5, the lesson from this story, and its universal application.
So, how does this actually translate to us? I mean, Ramcharan's story is this amazing, localized agricultural victory, for sure. But the mechanics of his success, they apply to absolutely any field, industry, or personal challenge. We all face our own droughts, right? We all hit those walls where our traditional methods stop working, the environment changes rapidly around us, and we're forced to make a choice. Do we pack up and retreat, or do we learn, adapt, and innovate? So, the crucial point is really distilled into 4 key takeaways here. Number 1, adapt to changing times. What worked perfectly yesterday might totally fail today. Number 2, ignore the naysayers. Innovation almost always looks like complete madness to people who are stuck in the past. Number 3, trust your hard work. There are no shortcuts. It takes those 4 a.m. wake-ups to get it done. And number 4, maintain self-belief. Your success isn't dictated by the terrible circumstances you might start with. It's dictated by your courage and your willingness to learn when the world shifts right beneath your feet.
I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought. When a drought hits your own life, when your industry changes, when you face a massive, unexpected crisis, or when your current path completely dries up, what are you going to do? Will you abandon your goals and leave the village? Or will you be like Ramcharan and radically change your way of farming? The choice is entirely yours. Keep learning, keep adapting, and I'll catch you next time.